Welcome to our bonus episode featuring the end-of-year events of the Rwanda Preprint Club, currently known as the Review and Curate Club. Dine Roseline Dzekem created the Review and Curate Club, an open science and open access club in Africa, which is operated by an enthusiastic committee. It aims to promote open science by boosting awareness of preprints, scientific processes, prereview, and curation. The Review and Curate Club wrapped up the year 2024 with a webinar titled Advocating for Preprint Sharing in Rwanda and Africa. The event served as a platform to emphasize the growing importance of preprints in fostering collaboration, accelerating research, and building a stronger open science community in Africa. 3 guest speakers have been featured with presentations on the key scholarly services for preprint sharing and community-based peer review. Johnny Coates from Asabayo gave an overview of the African and global preprint landscape. Joe Haverman from Access to Perspectives provided an overview of open science, open access principles, and the opportunity to share preprints via the Continental Research Repository AfricaCarve. And Vanessa Fairhurst from Prereview discussed the services and activities of Prereview and the value of collaborative peer review. Dine Roseline Dzekem rounded up the event by sharing the club's journey, achievements, challenges, and exciting plans for the future. For assistance with preprinting your article, research methods, or requesting community-organized review of articles or preprints, kindly connect with the club via dineroselinedzekem@gmail.com or josephtululokweoguniyi@gmail.com, or simply join their WhatsApp group via the link in the description.
And I'm the founder of the Rwanda Preprint Club. So I'm joining here with my colleagues and other collaborators. We're here to celebrate progress as well as to learn from what we have been able to achieve together and also discuss way forward. This afternoon or this morning or wherever you're joining us from, we are going to start the meeting by hearing from Jenny from Asabao. Thank you. Over to you, Jenny.
Thank you. I've got a relatively quick talk for you all, so I won't talk for too long. Okay, that should be big screen, and I can get started. So it's been great to be able to support this year. For those of you who don't know, ASAP Bio have a small amount of funding available for community projects, and I would say this has been one of our more successful ones this year. And it's nice to finally be able to actually come in and chat to some of you. So what I'm going to do is give you a very quick overview of the preprint landscape in Africa, some of the perceptions that are going on, and then round out with what I hope is a positive message. I've given a few talks around the importance of community-based efforts, which aligns very well with what ASAP Bio have in the past done. And so this being a community effort, it really is this is how we bring about change. If you have any questions afterwards, feel free to send me an email, or you can find me on Blue Sky these days, or also LinkedIn. I am about to go on holiday at the end of today, so I probably won't respond quickly, but I will when I get back. You've probably all already seen this image quite a lot. This is a figure from a paper back in 2020, showing the amount of preprint adoption globally. Unsurprisingly, it's very, very heavily adopted in America and certain parts of Europe, much less so in other parts of the world, particularly Africa, where it's not just a poor adoption generally, but we also have a lot of missing data for Africa. And this really makes it very, very difficult to understand how to help increase adoption across Africa, but also what the sort of current levels actually are. It could be that these blank countries here have relatively good adoption levels. We just don't know. And as I'm sure those of you who live in Africa are probably unsurprised, South Africa has amongst the best adoption, at least in 2020. And the issue with preprints is that you can't approach them as a single solution or a single viewpoint. Familiarity differs hugely depending on where you are in the globe. It also differs depending on what field you're in. Historically, preprints have been in the realm of physics and maths, and this is why you're seeing for the physics and maths throughout here, these are the fields that have more readily adopted preprints and are more familiar with the concept. Whereas other fields such as life sciences, which is where I operate in, that adoption is less, although it has increased a huge amount since we started doing this. But it also is much less in places that are not US and Europe. And actually, if you broke Europe down into Western Europe and Eastern Europe, this would also look rather different. This is really important for me in trying to sort of change this picture. But what I wanted to do here is just highlight that reaching out to other fields is really, really valuable because you can learn a lot about how they do things, how it's different, what works for them, and then steal some of their good ideas for our fields. This also explains why if you're coming from multiple different backgrounds, you can sometimes feel a little bit out of place if everyone else knows what preprints are and are talking about them, and you're from a field where they're not really used very much. Humanities and arts down at the bottom here, that's not a surprise. Preprints aren't really a thing because that field works rather differently to a lot of these others in terms of how we produce outputs. You're not going to preprint a monograph or a book, but you can still publish that open access. The other thing that differs between fields and globally are the perceptions towards preprints. And this is where I guess I really work. And this is the point of these kind of preprint clubs. Because it's the perceptions of preprints that change the adoption use of preprints. I think it's fairly safe to say that generally there are certain things that people share in terms of concerns and positives around preprints. So low credibility, reliability, this idea of sharing before peer review and premature media coverage are universal issues when it comes to preprints. Copyright and licensing is actually used to be a bigger issue than it is now. And I think this reflects educational efforts more than anything. So you can see in Europe and the US, this is lower now than it is in these other countries that are grouped into this data. And that is because there's been quite a lot of effort around what copyright means and how to choose a license. The other thing here is that these numbers have been coming down. So if I was to show you data before 2020, this is still all this is 2023 data. But if I was to show you earlier data, some of these things would look a lot higher. And there's 2 points here that really are great to highlight the global differences. One being getting scooped. So you can see that in the US and Europe, people generally aren't overly concerned about that, whereas researchers in China were very much concerned about being scooped. And I want to highlight this because this is something when I've spoken to people across Africa, this is something that seems to come up quite highly as a concern they have as well, that some lab somewhere else will come along and just beat them to it. And the other thing here is lack of recognition for preprints. I'm actually slightly surprised how low this is in this data. But this is a huge problem in terms of a barrier to preprinting. So if we can lower this barrier, hopefully more people will preprint. And again, you can see there's a big disparity globally here. So researchers based in China feel that preprints are not recognized enough, and this is a barrier to entry. And this is really the policy level stuff that we as individuals have less control over. And then we also have some data specifically looking at Africa. And this is really because there's just not enough of this. And we need a lot more of this. So this is data we did last year and was a relatively small survey, but it's quite insightful anyway. What you're seeing here are concerns around preprints for those who've previously posted a preprint. And the same concerns, but those who've never posted a preprint before. And broadly, the concerns are the same. The sort of scoring of that concern differs a little bit, but it's not a huge change anywhere in here. You can generally find that those who've never used preprints are more concerned around institutional discouragement or publisher discouragement and lack of recognition, whereas those who've actually posted preprints, they don't rate that as significantly as a problem. And this is just reflecting people's lived experience of using them. But the biggest concerns are still that idea of sharing before peer review and concerns around getting scooped. And I'm not going to actually tell you why concerns around getting scooped are not valid necessarily, because we've got a bunch of data resources you can go away and look at to see why that is not or should not be as big a concern as it currently is. But there are also benefits to posting preprints that we looked at in this survey. And again, I've not focused on these here because it's a short talk, but the benefits are pretty consistent in all the data I've looked at. So these are largely along the lines of things being free and open access, and also beneficial for a person's career or particularly early career researchers, and then rapid sharing results. Those tend to be the top benefits that come out of pretty much any survey done. This one at the bottom here around the funded requirement is probably going to increase in future surveys because this is becoming more of a thing. I would suspect institutional requirement would follow that eventually. It's also important to talk about where and how you use preprints. What's clear is that, at least in PLOS's data, African countries are dominating the opt-in for posting a preprint, which is great. That's exactly what we kind of want to see. And this ties in very much with data we already know. Most people will post a preprint when they submit to a journal or immediately before submitting to a journal. And that is pretty consistent anywhere in the world. If you're doing that, just to point out, you're using preprints wrong and you're missing out on a huge number of advantages to preprints. So that's a whole other talk. But you should be posting preprints earlier than this if you want the full benefits. There are also a lot of people still posting preprints after being accepted by a journal. That is increasingly frowned upon. Preprints are not meant to be a way of achieving open access and skirting around the journal issues. And I think we might actually see this being cracked down on a little bit more. Now, what I said when you post a preprint matters. It also matters where you post a preprint. And what we know is, for the most part, the traditional publishers now dominate the preprint landscape. So almost all preprint servers are owned by a traditional publisher these days. ORCID and bioRxiv are not quite in that category. ORCID is run by Cornell, it's a non-profit, and bioRxiv is also now a non-profit. The other one here, there's some other ones in here as well that are either society run or not-for-profit run. However, the biggest preprint servers are now owned by the traditional publishers. And this is bad because it allows them to dominate the whole space and dictate how we use and post preprints. The worrying thing is that the brief survey we did, at least, for people based in Africa, most people are using Research Square, which is owned by one of those big traditional publishers. And I think this is because when you submit your manuscript to one of the Springer Nature journals, there's literally a box you tick and it sends it to Research Square. Not something I recommend, but again, separate talk for that. So why does it matter where you post your preprint? Well, if you want your preprint to get attention, to be downloaded and used, to be cited by people, you need to really carefully think about where you're posting it. Now, there's not a lot of data on this, and this is a research project I have ongoing now to generate all the data to prove what I'm about to say. Although we have looked at this in the past briefly, and so there's another bit of data I was able to find looking at this. If you post on bioRxiv, you get more downloads and you get more citations than if you post on something like Research Square or SSRN or preprints.org, or frankly, any of the other preprint servers in the life sciences. This, I think, is partly brand recognition, but there's also a huge number of reasons why that's a better preprint server to use. It's more community focused. It's got tools that really help you elevate the preprint as being this reliable output that you've made. And this is the bioRxiv toolbar. So I just want to include this because it's the first time I've actually shown this slide to anyone. And we're going to be, well, I'm going to be doing a lot more on where you publish over the next year. So I thought it'd be nice if you all got the heads up that you should be posting to bioRxiv. The other thing is that posting to certain servers helps them make the case that they need more funding. And so by choosing where you post your preprint, you are also then saying this is what the community supports moving forward. And if we want to break free of the journal system, we really, really need to think about this part. And I want to end on 2 slides, just more generally talking about change. Change is incredibly difficult. And part of that is that within academia in particular, survivorship bias is just everywhere. This is a very overused image to highlight survivorship bias. But academia is a lot like a pyramid. It's about 99% of people who enter don't actually make it very far. And the 1% who succeed really love saying, if it worked for me, it must work for everyone else. This makes change sometimes feel like it's impossible. It's not. But it only happens if we all work together. And what you're seeing here is a statue in the US, actually, of a tortoise and hare. This is a parable, at least in Western Europe, that gets around a lot. There's a race between these two, and the hare speeds up and rushes, and the tortoise, being a tortoise, is nice and slow and steady. Change happens when we have a mix of these things. You need things that push boundaries and rush ahead and are likely to fail, but they're pushing boundaries. At the same time, you need that slow, steady approach to incrementally bring everyone along with you to that change. And it really is a teamwork effort. And this is what these community projects were designed to do. It's designed to make change happen in a slow, steady manner at the local level. And it requires everyone to do that together. So I said I would keep it quick, so I have done. Like I said, if you want to reach out with any questions about preprints, you can do, or you can also join our Slack. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny, for the wonderful introduction and heating up the grounds for this event. We also hear you on repositories where we should consider when posting our preprints. And luckily enough, our next speaker is Joe from AfriArchive. Joe, please, if you're here, the floor is yours. Thank you. While we are waiting for Joe, if you have any question for Johnny, please feel free to raise your hand and please feel free to raise your hand and ask your question. Thank you. Yes, Molid, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon for everyone. And I appreciate it for this wonderful meeting. So I also appreciate it for the Preprint for Rwanda for this initiative journal of research. So and I would like to be question about publication of research article. So contributed by the researchers when wanted to be and publish them, and it is free. I appreciate it for this. Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Johnny, I don't know if you heard him. I didn't hear. I didn't get the question.
No, you broke up.
Molly, we didn't hear you. Probably you would like to post your question on the chat box if your network is not stable. Joe is here with us. So, Joe, yes, please.
I'd like to know whether, unlike manuscripts, can one post their preprint on more than one platform?
No. Well, you can, but it will be removed from platforms and it is not accepted for pretty much any preprint platform. They're not meant to be used as a way of just getting your work in every possible place. So you post your preprint to a single platform, and that's kind of how they're meant to work.
Also, if I have it on Research Square and I want it on Aspabio, can I withdraw it? I have to first withdraw it and post it somewhere else.
So we are not a preprint platform, so we wouldn't. You could potentially withdraw and post elsewhere, but that would be a very strange process to go through. And depending on where you posted it, they would reject it if it's elsewhere. So bioRxiv, for example, will not accept preprints that are posted elsewhere. And I think there's a really good argument for not having preprints across lots of different platforms. So I strongly discourage that kind of activity anyway.
Do we have questions?
Okay, my question is there publication of charges? And when I wanted to be published my article, is there charges my research, or is this published by free? Add my question.
So no preprint server should charge you or your, so you should not have to pay to read or post a preprint. You will need to pay if you're going to publish that work, unless it's in a Diamond open access journal. You will probably be contacted by a bunch of scammy services who are trying to charge you for various things once you've posted a preprint. That also happens when we post papers. My advice is just to ignore all of that nonsense. You should not be there should be no costs whatsoever.
Do we have any other question? Or
yes.
comments? Okay. Please go on.
I have a question. Am I audible?
Yes, please, we can hear you.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I heard him talking about it, so I didn't clearly get him, where he was talking about the platforms where we can upload our preprints on. Now my question is, are there specific platforms where one can upload their preprints, like for different disciplines? Let's say in medicine, those who are in medicine, maybe. Is there a particular platform where they can have their preprints uploaded?
So there are multiple platforms to post preprints to, and it really depends what your target audience is. So if you're doing research that affects only the African continent, then you should absolutely prioritize something like Africa Archive, because that's where the people who you want to read your work will be. If you're doing something that is physics-based, you want to post probably on ORCID, because that's the sort of physics preprint server. If it's life science based, you might want to post on bioRxiv. There are general repositories, so SSRN pretty much take almost any field at the moment. Research Square are more open, I think, than bioRxiv are, but they've still got a life science focus to them. So I mean, again, this is a whole other talk, but there are a lot of different places you can choose to post a preprint. There are also things like just general repositories like Zenodo, where you can post your work. If you have data sets, that will impact where you're posting. So say, for example, you don't have a fully fledged manuscript and you just want to post some data up, then Zenodo is a really good place for that. So yeah, there's a lot of considerations to go into there.
Thank you, Jenny. Thank you for those who have already asked questions. If you have more questions, you can directly reach out to Jenny, or you will be given room for more questions. For the interest of time, we have to move to the next presenter or the next topic for today. So the floor will be given to Joe from AfriArchive. Thank you. Joe, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Can you hear me? Welcome, everyone. And thanks for having me. Is the audio okay?
Yes, it is.
Okay, great. So apologies for not being able to connect earlier. This is Rosalind. I'm at a conference, and there's many important discussions going on here. It's the Diamond Open Access Global Summit, second. And we also had the Open Science in the South, the publishing we want for Latin America, Africa, and Asia. And we'll happily share the link to that conference. We can all look up the themes and the topics that are being discussed here, and it very much overlaps with what you discuss at this very moment. We are also pushing a lot for the publish, review, and curate model. That's also part of today's session. And just start the slideshow now. With that, I want to hop onto the presentation, which I'm here for. Again, thanks for having me. You might have noticed my comments in the chat. So depending on any topic, and also when it comes to open science and open access and repositories and preprints and any of these terms, while we're all here for the same goal, many of us have slightly varying experiences, backgrounds, needs, requirements, and purposes. So you might not always get the same answer when asking a question to different people. So as much as that I support and agree with that in certain contexts, what Johnny just said is very much true, and you will have backlash if you try to submit your preprint to several services. We at AfriArchive very much welcome that, because we're trying to raise the discoverability of African research in particular, and that like in the global scholarship space. And because Africa is restricted on participating for various hindrances and biases, we cannot publish on enough platforms. So my advocacy will be publish wherever the heck you can. And if a certain institution decides to have a policy to then not accept your submission, then of course you need to balance, okay, do I really want to publish my work there or so disseminate it there? Also, the term publishing is under debate. So for me, sharing a preprint is already publishing, but that's heavily disputed in certain circles. But it really comes down to the question, why are we doing research? And like most, if not all researchers I've spoken to, they start the research journey to contribute to the betterment of the society and the environment of our people and the planet we live on. And you can only achieve that if you publish with impact to society and not with impact to a certain metric that's only serving the bank account of a few individuals. So yeah, that's enough of the political advocacy, which is also very much happening at this venue here, at the Golden Diamond Open Access Summit. And just a few words about myself. So I'm Jo Havemann. I'm a trainer and consultant for open science communication and research management based in Berlin, Germany. I have founded AfriArchive together with a colleague from Benin. West Africa. In 2018, I've also worked for the United Nations Environment Program, also within, during that time, also with the Indigenous Peoples of Africa Coordinating Committee. And just as a side note, also at this venue here in the Diamond Open Access Summit, Indigenous peoples from around the world, New Zealand, various African countries, and also are being referenced. I've also spoken at the summit. So yeah, and I have a PhD in biology. So this also connects me as a researcher to many of you. My consultancy and training institutional center. So I pursue the goal of providing and fostering an environment for researchers that is globally inclusive for research management and science communication to, again, benefit society and the planet, which is why most researchers actually sign up for the research agenda in the first place. We do that through various topics, which, and with myself, but also other experts and trainers, many of which you see here. And the ones circled now are the ones that are also contributing to Africa Archive as African professionals. And Martha is here with us in the room, and she will also say a few words because Africa Archive started in 2018 as on a generalist affiliate repository. We started with the open science framework provided by the Center for Open Science in the United States, and also Zenodo. So we still have a Zenodo collection. We have PubPub, we have Figshare, we have Enhanced Chaos, we have Science Open. So we built Africa Archive on a set of repository platforms, which are all generalist when it comes to the research discipline. So any researcher from across Africa of any discipline can contribute their work on any system of their preference or institutional or funder requirements, because that also differs, which is why a certain platform may be preferenced or researchers being obliged to use just that platform. Since last year, we joined hands with the institution based in Malawi, UbuntuNet Alliance. And for that, Martha, could you please open your camera and share a few words about UbuntuNet? Oh, Martha, no, should be able to unmute, right? The connectivity allows. Can you unmute? Yes.
Hello, everyone.
Can hear you.
Okay, great. Thank you again for having us. I am Martha Chikuni. I'm a content management officer from the UbuntuNet Alliance. And just a bit of a background about the UbuntuNet Alliance. We are a regional research and education network for Eastern and Southern Africa, providing advanced digital infrastructure to support universities, researchers, and institutions in global collaboration and advancing science, technology, and education. And together with access to perspectives, that's the organization Joy is also from, we've been enhancing research feasibility, as she said, through Afri Archive. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Martha. So Professor Madara God is the CEO of UbuntuNet Alliance, and also here at the conference, and he presented about our work at this conference just yesterday. Was it yesterday or this morning? No, yesterday. I think I will share the link in the chat just right after our presentation. So here's I was going to share the slide while Martha is speaking. So this is the coverage that UbuntuNet Alliance provides, providing connectivity to research and education institutions through NRENs, so National Research and Education Networks. And yeah, UbuntuNet is the umbrella organization for these, coordinating the connectivity establishment to happen, and now also providing service space for Africa Archive and other initiatives that serve scholarship in Africa. And we've conducted trainings over the past years to librarians so that they can serve you as the researchers with a state-of-the-art expertise and knowledge, and also knowledge on how to operate Africa Archive at your own institution. And so we're also hosting repository content from African libraries to leverage the discoverability, not only through technology, but now also by collaborating with African institutions across. So basically, which probably was mentioned before and will be mentioned in the past. So the key for open access is that research achievements need to be discoverable and accessible so that they can afford the intended societal and environmental impacts. And this is why we're here, and this is why we're talking about open access and open science. And then this is a sticker, which you can also download and kind of print stickers off for your university and your communities. The open science is nothing more, nothing less, just good scientific practice. So it's really just science done the right way. And I want to maybe point you towards or remind you of that the right to engage and benefit from scientific achievements, and also as a researcher to protect the ownership of your results. These two things are a basic human right. So just keep that in mind for future reference, because this is key to also discussions here at the Global Diamond Open Access Summit, and also key to why we talk about open science generally, and the urgency to emphasize that in our conversations and as we advocate for open access and open science practices. Since 2021, we have the UNESCO Open Science recommendations as reference, and please check the website that you find down here, and I'll also share the link to that, unesco.org, then open science. And UNESCO has provided a toolkit and a lot of references and also declarations as a result of a globally inclusive consultative process that went on over 2 years and is now ratified by 194 nation states around the world. So this is a massive commitment by the global international community on governmental level to support and embrace open science practices for an inclusive and equitable benefit of all people on this planet. Based on values and principles, as keeps being discussed, and also, of course, the omnipresent science sustainable development goals. And the question on top of the slide is, it's a rhetoric question. So, like, our firm believers, and you may comment in the chat if you agree or not, or are not quite sure how, but our belief is that only through embracing open science practices in whichever degree is feasible and possible at this time, that's how we progress towards achieving the goals. We've postulated 10 principles for African region-specific open access dissemination of knowledge. And to just cite the first principle, which says, academic research and knowledge from and about Africa should be freely available to all who wish to access, use, or reuse it, while at the same time being protected from misuse and misappropriation. And how can we achieve that in the digital era? Because it keeps happening. You've probably heard about helicopter research as a term, and is a huge challenge in Global South, Global North collaboration projects. And our answer is through state-of-the-art open science and open access facilitating technology, we can contribute to avoiding that from happening, to protect African knowledge and to put timestamps and persistent identifiers to enshrine ownership to the African scientific community on any African scientific output. And you can achieve that very much so by sharing your preprints. So the solutions the challenges we've built a solution for through with Africa Archive, which is just another repository, you might say, but for the region of Africa, and explicitly addressing the challenges which I mentioned: language barriers, low digital visibility of African scholarly output, underrepresentation in international research networks, and restricted access to research funding, all of which is already changing as we speak, because this movement is going on for some time. And not only through our work at Africa Archive, but also many other committed, highly committed individuals and communities, such as the Rwanda Preprint Club, such as African Reproducibility Network, such as African Open Science Hardware, and there's many more, which you can also explore further and tap into and join community with. And of course, international networks, which are presented here as well with Bio, Prereview and others. We ground our work in the FAIR principles, which are basically also embedded in the technology provided by UbuntuNet Alliance of Africa Archive. And we also enshrine our work in the FAIR, complementing the FAIR principles. We add also the CARE principles for collective benefit, authority to control, responsibility, and ethics. If you haven't heard about the CARE principles, please look up the website indicated here. It's about the ethical aspects, but not only that, also the collective benefit. And as much as you see on the top of the slide, this was postulated by a group of indigenous scholars from around the world for data governance, it very much also applies for the global scientific community, for the benefit of a global society and the planet, and also not only for data, or if you want, research articles are also data points. So you can also extrapolate the concept of the CARE principles for what we're talking about here when it comes to scholarly publishing. And other principles and standards we ground our work to and have subscribed to are the Helsinki Initiative on Multilingualism. We're a signatory of DORA. We've mentioned the UNESCO recommendation on open science, which is also again here at the summit at the moment. The principles of open scholarly infrastructure, which is very much represented and enabled, facilitated through UbuntuNet again. And of course, the COPE strategy by the Committee for Publication Ethics. So, welcome to Africa Archive. Here's the link to the repository. And we have already a set of collections, and we can also set up community collections like the one and Rosalind and I have been discussing here, how we can set this up for yourselves as a community or for whichever universities. We're also looking at having institutional community collections in the future. And the one that's highlighted here is on a research program that just concluded, which is of international relevance within Africa. So when I say international, we often think Europe and North America. When I say we, I say myself as a German, and you can ask yourself what do you understand when you hear somebody say international? What does that mean? Like who's included, who's not included, who comes to mind when you hear international? But this means, now in this context, we're talking about inside Africa international. And and you can explore that, and that's basically how, like this, the research funding program was about investigating the effects of COVID on society and also biologically and molecularly, so and immunology. So it's interdisciplinary and looking at what happened during the pandemic and how have societies across the continent coped with the pandemic and what was lessons learned. We have a general repository under which we have collections for language, artificial intelligence, and one more, which I can't remember at the moment, but you can go to the live page and explore yourself. And the idea is to build Africa Archive in a systemic manner so that one research item can be discovered through rich metadata under several collections. So you would find your study, if you publish your work in Chichewa, like the Malawian language, which is the mostly used, but not exclusively used national language in Malawi. So you can publish your work in Chichewa and find it under Africa Archive in the Chichewa collection, but also based on the topic-specific keywords that are placed by the author in English and Chichewa to make the work as discoverable as ever possible to anyone, keeping in mind who might be searching for the information that you put in the article in that language, and then hopefully or possibly also provided a translation in either Swahili and or English and or French or Arabic. So we're very much supporting multilingualism, especially when it comes to African language dissemination. Could go on forever, but the key of our work is to make, to enable discoverability through digital persistent identifiers, which I'm sure have been and will be discussed in length. So I'll move on. And then here you see people contribute to the team, both from UbuntuNet and Access to Perspectives. And I pointed out others who are also working for Africa Archive from, well, other people are, of course, also represented in both organizations, but these are the ones that are currently the core team for Africa Archive, which you can reach out to. You find us on LinkedIn and also in various, on LinkedIn and by email and on the respective website. I want to point out that we also have dashboards, country profiles, where you can explore where, like in what venues, as in digital repositories and databases, can you find information about the research output of a particular country like Rwanda? And also how does open access increase or decrease over time? And yeah, get all kinds of bibliometric information about open science and open access on a particular country. And you can do the same exercise and use the same matrices and institutions we are highlighting here, all of which are open science facilitators, doing the same on an institutional level. So you can go to the reference websites that we highlight and search not by country, but by institution and get the information from these. And this is free of charge and no paywall whatsoever. We have a podcast, and I want to also, he cannot be with us here otherwise, but he's also an often or a frequent presenter of Africa Archive, Rwanda and Africa, who is also the co-host for the podcast that we run together. And he's the podcast producer and process manager. So I will also share the link to that, so you can enjoy some of the conversations we've had with guests from around the world, including Africa, on various open science topics. And here's our, the Access to Perspectives website. You can also write to info@africaarchive.org and get in touch with our team. Thank you so much for your attendance and thank you. And please ask any questions you might have. Thank you, Roseline.
Thank you, Joe, and thank you for attending. All right, so we are going to open the floor for questions that we may have for Joe. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Welcome. Okay. Thank you for your presentation. I just wanted to ask that if, for example, my research is not country-based, I'm a geneticist, and it's not based on a study in Africa. Can I still submit my manuscript to the preprint?
Absolutely. So we have submission guidelines on our website. I will share the link to these. And so our primary target audience are African scholars on the continent, because that's where most of the hindrances and roadblocks are, unfortunately, and often not more known by the African scholars themselves. And that's biases of any kind, as blunt as racism and ignorance or not knowing. Oftentimes it's just not being aware, because in Western and Central Europe, people don't have much exposure due to the technical restrictions because of internet coverage to African research. So they don't even know that research is happening. And you, like, that might shock and surprise you, but it's actually true. What people are not exposed to, they don't think it exists. And when they see it, they're surprised and it's like, what? And then they have different levels of quality expectations and don't have even less of a clue about the regional and local context. And then also what is determined as quality. This is another huge debate also here at the summit. Who defines what quality is? And again, like, let me ask you, why are we doing research in the first place? And what quality measures do we need to allow quality, how do you say, like, I'm losing the words because my brain is a bit overstretched from all the conversations. But okay, back to your questions. We have the submission guidelines, and yes, any scholar on the continent can submit their work on any discipline, any topic. Second, researchers who are African by origin but currently work in a kind of outside Africa institution can also submit. And then also non-African scholars outside Africa or inside can submit their work if it now relates to the African content. You get, so these three scenarios is what we invite for submission explicitly. And then there is maybe nuances which don't fit any of the three, and that you can still submit, and then we discuss and assess the scope if it still meets or is rather fitting for another repository. Does that answer your question? And sorry for the deviation, but it's like really, like we thought about this a lot, but our initial intention to start Africa Archive is because of what I just said about.
Thank you.
You're most welcome.
Any more questions for Joe or Martha?
Yes, I have one more question. Please forgive my ignorance. I'm really new to this preprint stuff. I attended a conference last month actually, and that was where I learned about preprint. So I just want to get an overview about this. So if you have a manuscript and to have an open access, we submit to the preprint. And what eventually happens after, like, who reviews the work, or do I just submit to the preprint archives, or do they publish my work afterwards? Like, I do not have better understanding about this.
Yeah, luckily we have Vanessa Ferrist here, but I want to briefly answer for Africa Archive. So you submit your work to us because that's where you want your work to be stored, archived, and preserved for long term and made available for citation. And we do a quality assessment just briefly if the submitted item, and this can be a manuscript, but also a slide deck for your presentation, a poster. Again, if you go to the submission guidelines data set, because we're not only concerning manuscripts and text, but also other output, video, audio files as well. So we just do a quality check for, does it meet state-of-the-art scholarly standards? Like, does it follow scholarly narrative and structure? If it's a manuscript, like the IMRAT, introduction, methodology, results, and discussion, reference list, and the usual. So just that, then we assess for the scope of work. Does it have a relevance to Africa continent and African scholarship? And that's basically it. We don't want to be a bottleneck for your work. And if we have concerns on whichever other quality criteria publishers and editors might have, we will get in touch with you and point that out and make recommendations on how you can possibly improve your manuscript, also to protect you to unknowingly expose your work of presumably lower quality, which you could easily fix just by adopted formatting or something like that. Because sometimes a sloppiness or an unawareness of certain formatting criteria results in rejection at a journal. So to be alert and aware of what that could be, we are also trying to help with. But in a supportive manner, not in a restrictive manner, that helps.
Thank you.
Oh, and Vanessa, maybe you want to add from the moderation for review processes? I don't know if that exceeds the discussion for this session, but
sorry, thank you. Sorry, I had my headset on mute. So at Preview, I'll be talking a little bit about how it works shortly. But we don't have any barriers in terms of like quality checks or anything before you can request a review for your preprint. So you post your preprint in the place that makes most sense to you. And then you can come along to pre-review and you can request feedback on your preprint via the platform. And others can also just take the DOI link of your preprint, come to pre-review, paste that in, and then they can write a review of that. And we have a community of a number of different reviewers, and we provide training and things for doing peer review work, but we don't make any decisions. So we exist to be able to improve people's work. So I will talk more about it shortly anyway, but yeah, that's kind of in a nutshell how it works.
yeah, thank you so much. And services like Preview already provide peer review on your manuscript, which many, and Africa has also work with that. So there are then other communities there's a concept called overlay journals. So the reviews that pre-review provides from a community approach are also being used formally for an emerging concept that's called overlay journals, again, which we also facilitate starting next year, which is basically in a couple of days, but for us, it might take a couple of weeks or months before we can formally announce that. But then the reviews, along with the manuscripts, the manuscript's already publicly available. Then you have the reviews connected, also published. And then there's now editorial teams forming to provide an edited, an improved version, or a kind of informed through the peer reviews version of your work into a digital journal, which we can also host on Africa Archive in the future. But that's the whole process of publish, review, curate, which is again a subject that's heavily debated as an alternative to the restrictive and overpriced current publishing format and workflow.
Yeah, thank you. We will give the floor to Timothy. Please, let's make it quick so we can move to the next agenda. Timothy, over to you. Timothy, can you hear us?
Yes, thank you. I really appreciate this conference, and it has been a eye-opener and educative, and I want to appreciate all the presenters. So the question I want to ask is for a new researcher who is just coming to submit the manuscript, is there any provision of giving such person a kind of ORCID? Is there a provision either now or maybe in future? That is my first question. Then the second question is, we have some journal who actually provide authorship certificates. Is there any provision for this also? That is my question.
I'm not sure questions are for me, and I didn't quite understand the first question. And maybe just quickly answering the second, we don't provide certificates because it's another level of overhead and administrative work, which we cannot or don't have the capacity for. Apologies, right through it after talking. But I mean, your work is the certificate, so it should, and we facilitate for it to speak for itself. But or maybe I don't quite understand your reason and concept for why I would need a author certification. But on that note, I would like to highlight the credit taxonomy for attributing research contributions. And I'll just share that quickly in the chat for reference. But do you want to elaborate on your first question? Sorry.
And actually, the reason why I'm asking this is that there are some application that one might want to apply that they might need of maybe certificate of co-authorship certificates. So that is why I'm asking. Then the first question is this ID number ORCID. So that is my
Oh,
first question.
okay. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah, I get it. Sorry, like different communities have different references of these acronyms.
I think he means the ORCID number, if I got him right.
Yeah. See,
Okay.
some people say ORCID, some people say ORCID. But I get it now. And I think the two, no, both is the same question to me. I would give the same answer to you, both your questions, because if you use your ORCID number, your ORCID credentials, then the work that you disseminate on a repository such as Africa Archive or any other that also has ORCID integrated into the system, that's an important thing you need to check. Then, and you should find that information on the respective website or info page for the repository. Then that will also add automatically to your ORCID record. And that then serves in a way like accreditation, because the ORCID record was owned by you, but it then speaks for yourself as you advance in your career, because there you have your affiliation, your university listed, the list of your publications. So you're building your scholarly record, which in itself is testimony to your scholarly accomplishments. So you don't need any other certification, ideally. I know there's flaws in the system, but it's not only the best we have, it's the best we ever had. And it's not perfect, but it's close to perfect. And it's community owned.
Thank you, Joe. I hope, Timothy, your question has been answered. If not, you can still discuss with Joe in the chat box, or you can reach out to her via email. We will take the last question for this session from Francis. Francis, over to you.
Yeah, I would like to get some clarification on if I submit my preprint and it's posted, but then I also submit it to a journal and it is rejected in a journal. What happens to my preprint? It can still remain even when my manuscript is rejected?
Yes, because journals have their own reasons for acceptance rejection, and sometimes might be valid just because they have a narrow scope of topics they accept, and then some researchers try or they misread the scope of work. So, and that again can easily happen if the description is not clear. So yes, it will stay on. It's once you submit and it's online, then it will remain there, like ideally or theoretically forever. Of course, there's technical possibilities to remove it. Or that's also an ethical question for the editorial board of the preprint server, that there's reasons why it might be removed. For example, like in a journal, if plagiarism or any other scholarly fraud is detected, then that's a reason to either label it as such or to better retract and remove it from the system so that the misinformation doesn't continue to circle in the community. And also here, some journals and some repositories have a policy of it has to stay online and then be labeled. But then, because some topics are highly debated in the community, and then some researchers in the past have been labeled as fraudulent or having produced fraudulent work, where it was just a different opinion from another researcher, or a journal detected plagiarism, presumably, but just because the preprint was online and the system said it's plagiarism, but it's of the same author, and then by definition it's not plagiarism. It cannot be, because can't possibly, I mean, how do you plagiarize yourself? But and then to prevent from wrongfully accusing a researcher from of fraud, that's also a delicate decision-making process, and hopefully it's being done responsibly by the decision makers. But to your question, like in most cases, 99%, the preprint stays online as long as you want it to be online.
Okay, thank you very much for the wonderful presentation and discussions. Let's keep it live on the chat box and even after this. So we are going to have the next presentation from Tolupe, who is going to be telling us needs assessment findings from the African perspective. Over to you, Tolupe.
Yeah, thank you, Roslyn. Really appreciate that. Thank you, Johnny, Code, and Joe for setting up the flow for the preprint and open access. So I'll actually be my name is Oguni Tolope Joseph. So I'll be sharing my screen to discuss the need assessment of Rwanda Preprint Club. Yeah, I hope you guys can see my slide, please. Sorry, can someone confirm that for me, please?
I can see your screen.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. So I'll be presenting on promoting preprint awareness and adoption in Africa, a need-driven perspective from African region, and I'll be guided by this outline, talking about the introduction, the research question, the method that the data was collected, and also the findings from this, and provide conclusion and recommendation. Now, we have actually been talking much more about preprints, and we actually know that preprint is an open access research, otherwise known as a non-peer reviewed paper that is made publicly available as quick as possible and available to many people generally. And this preprint aims to actually make work very accessible, easily to read, even before a paper is being peer reviewed. Normally, traditional journal takes more than 2 months and above to actually publish your work. But in order to actually facilitate you sharing your articles to people, sharing your data to people, getting people to actually have access to your findings, there's a need to actually adopt preprint. And thank God for the beautiful work that was actually done by Cornell University, which actually bring about the introduction of archive in the early 1990s, to be specific, I think 1991. And currently we have a lot of servers, preprint servers, which can actually be general, regional, or even across different fields of study. We have archive, which actually focus on physical science and all that. We have African archive, which is very peculiar to the African countries. We have the bioarchive, we have chem archive, we have psych archive, a lot of preprint servers which have been made available. Now, this preprint has really grown a very much impact, generally speaking, and it's become much more into limelight during the COVID-19 pandemic. And during that COVID-19 pandemic, we actually discovered that one of ways to which scientists were able to actually address the pandemic was through data sharing. And one of this was actually being due to the help of open access through preprint. So the data generated across different countries was shared using this preprint, and people were able to actually leverage on it. However, preprint actually face a lot of issue with acceptability, validity in regards to the data among research community, whereby leading to hesitancy, resistance to even submitting their research article to preprint servers. So the extent to which these preprints are being embraced globally actually varies, because there are actually much adoption of preprints across Europe, America, and currently there's been a sparse data in Africa. So we decided to actually carry out a need in African continent. So, and we aim to actually determine the rate of awareness, uptake of preprint in Africa. What are the barrier to the preprint acceptance? What are the relationship between patient participant demographics in terms of the country, the field of research, and also role played in organization or institution, and how does it affect the awareness of preprint institution promotion, institutional promotion, and relevance to institution. And also we decided to actually AF the opinion of the participants in regards to the preprint credibility, how can we actually improve it, the uptake, and also the acceptance in Africa. To answer this, we adopted a cross-sectional study design, which actually carried out among African researchers, and we employed to gather information from those that might have prepared before, or those that have not prepared but might have an idea, and those that give consent to the study. Although people, researchers or participants from other continents were excluded from the study. And in order to answer our question, we made use of and being disseminated in an online format to assess the recent and its challenges in Africa. And also, we decided to actually disseminate this questionnaire across various platforms using the social media, the LinkedIn, the Telegram, WhatsApp group, in order to get this participants. Now, being a mixed study, we decided to analyze both the qualitative data using Microsoft Excel and the quantitative data, analyzing the descriptive and the chi-square using SPSS. So from our findings, we discovered that we had a lot of participants across several African countries. At least we are actually we have 17 countries, African countries, being represented in this survey, and which we have Nigeria to be the most country with that participant came from, having the sum of 27%. We have Rwanda 16%. We have Zambia. And we also have other countries that we might have recorded a low participant, like Zimbabwe, Ethiopia, Sierra Leone, Benin, and Malawi. So from this, we discovered that the participants, most of them are master graduates, and most of them comes from the field of medical research and scientific research. Then also the role they play in the institution, we have some play their role as a researcher, which most of them are we have 35%. Yeah, we have 35% being a student. There we have 29% being a lecturer at their institution. We have researchers, which are 23%. Now, with this data presentation, we carried out the awareness and promotion of preprint in the institution. Despite the fact that the awareness of preprint was 64%, and also the participants identified 62% of participants identify that the preprint has a role to play in the institution, we still have a very low rate of the promotion within the institution, which is 40%. And this actually shows that there's a low uptake or a low promotion of preprint across different institutions, and which has to be kind of addressed. So in this data, we actually decided to look into what can be the barrier to this preprint sharing, and the thing that came up the most from the participants was not being recognized in the scientific community. That's why the fact that people are preprinting their work. I don't think sharing of this preprint has been something people are kind of very eager to share, despite the fact some journals provide a platform for them to preprint their work, or even they have access to preprinting. They still didn't have, and the ability to even share it's kind of limited due to the lack of recognition among the scientific community, and which has to be addressed. And also we have due to academic requirements, and also the in-use of preprint has been a barrier to the sharing. And also we try to find out what would be the interest of the participants regarding Preprint Club, and what came up was that they'll be delighted to enjoy benefit to share to a benefit and opportunity being shared, capacity career development and growth. They are actually much interested in open peer review, then research for the proposal. Now, looking at the association between the uptake of preprint across Rwanda, uptake among the, though we can actually conclude that this is actually the utmost finding, because they actually check across the field of study. We discovered that the field of medical research and scientific research seems to be much more aware than other fields, and the those from with master graduates and people of Doctor of Philosophy seems to actually be much more aware. I guess since they are actually an early career researcher in this field, they tends to actually be more aware about how to disseminate their work and make their work very easily available. And also based on the European institution, definitely researchers and university lecturers will be much more aware about the preprint. Now, looking at the association with between countries and promotion of preprints. We saw that there's the highest level was actually seen among Tanzania. We actually sorry please. What's here Kenya, we can see around Rwanda having kind of a moderate, then also Nigeria having a moderate. Well, beautifully, Kenya recently partnered with African Archive to actually promote preprints in their institution. I guess that's one of the benefits of promoting it in their institution. Then looking at the field of study, we discovered that medical research tends not to actually promote their preprint. According to the findings of Chung, it is discovered that medical research don't really promote preprint because the findings from medical research are very, very critical and must actually be very taken lightly. People might tend to actually utilize it, not knowing maybe it's actually accurate or not, since it hasn't undergone any peer review or the credibility has not been determined or even the validity across the scientific community. So which limits the uptake in medical research, but other research groups seem to actually keep promoting it, and it's actually with business research and education research promoting much more, and also the scientific research promoting much more about preprints. And also we can see that there is much promotion of preprint among master graduates and also those with PhD. And also there's much dissemination around researchers and also university lecturers. Now, looking at the role play in institution, we have a quite number of people recognizing the role in countries like South Africa, Rwanda, Kenya. We have Malawi and Benin. Looking at there is much benefit to them as they can easily disseminate much information. Then looking across the research domain, we can see that scientific research, social research, and educational research believe that it's actually much very important, and they are willing to actually do that. Then also we have the Doctor of Philosophy, we have Master that believes that there is much role to play in the field of study, and manifest lecturers, then researchers, and librarians. Well, we have quite a number of them that believe that it's actually very important in their role. None. As I've said, there have been a mixed study. We decided to actually get an opinion from the from participants, looking at what they wish to learn about preprint, because most people might actually be aware of preprint but might not know what it entails, what open science access means, and the likes. When we try to find out what ways to increase preprint uptake in institution, we decided to find out how we can actually share in preprint across Africa. Then also we decided to actually look at what ways can we actually improve or promote the adoption of preprints among researchers and academics across Africa. Now, looking at the findings, from this needs assessment, we actually see that people are willing to learn where the platform they can actually preprint their work, what are the process needed to actually go about that, what are the benefits, how does it actually facilitate them in the aspect of collaboration, what has been the acceptance rate within the scientific community. And also looking at the point of view of two participants, one of them said that what are preprint and how do they differ from peer-reviewed articles? I think these are one of the questions that needs actually be answered being known by people. How can articles for preprint be evaluated for credibility and quality? And also, a person wants to know the role of preprint in improving research pool in Africa. Now, looking at the ways to increase preprint uptake in the institution, the common themes among most participants was the introduction of preprint to the institution in terms of organizing conferences, workshop, providing benefits or gifts to those that actually engage in preprint, and there should be a need to actually make a preprint like a promoting means for lecturers, as most of them requires publications to get promoted, and helping the lecturers to actually use this to actually be a means of to actually increase the uptake within the institution, and also helping people to be aware that they can actually publish these they can actually make their work pre-printed without being paying any article processing fee. It's one of the things they believe that can actually improve the uptake in the institution. Looking at the perspective of these two participants, one of them reported that offers rewards or recognition for researchers who publish preprints such as bonuses, promotions, or public acknowledgement. Another participant made mention that by promoting educational workshop and seminars, engaging with senior researchers, creating a preprint repository, and facilitating network opportunities, it means to actually increase the uptake in our institution. Now, looking at how we can actually improve the credibility of our work, yeah, we drawing from the point of view of the participants, most of these one of the ways they actually made mention of was the providing a guideline or instructional material to guide preprint processing, creating a kind of a credible platform that can be used in preprinting a paper, offering kind of like an open review, which we actually help to oversee and emphasize on the clear guidance and ethical practices. When then they made mention of appropriate methodology be adopted, data dissemination, and looking at the point of view of these participants, which is that to ensure credibility and quality of preprint in Africa, several measures need to be implemented, which include African research should use trusted preprints, mostly like Bioarchive, regional platform like Africa Archive, which have quality control, and a lot of things are being said. And it's however that okay, fine. Fostering collaboration with international research network and local mentorship is one of the means to actually improve the credibility and the quality of research being shared in Africa. Then having to learn about what we can actually do in adopt a preprint platform and among researchers and academics in Rwanda and across Africa. So looking at the point of view of these participants, he actually emphasized on organizing workshop, webinars, seminars, so that we can actually let people, the researchers, students, and a lot of people know about the benefit of preprint as a means of fast dissemination, feasibility, and a means to collaborate, engage with other researchers, and also for quick opinion regarding their work, and also recommended collaboration with global and regional network like African Archive, just as it has been done in Kenya and in Tanzania. I think adopting much more of this is one of the most important things that can actually help to improve the adoption of preprint in Africa. Then also organizing trainings and also aligned preprints in local language. Then also training local language, how to submit preprint papers, then also engaging early career research and students in preprint practice across academic programs will foster long-term adoption. So looking at the summary of these findings, we cover that 64%, despite the awareness of 4%, 40% only acknowledge the institutional uptake. So despite the acceptance of preprint in developed country like American and Europe, Africa is still kind of still in the reality of still embracing it, and most of these participants desire to benefit from research funding support, open peer review, access to research opportunities. Then also 50% of personnel acknowledge that the lack of recognition of preprint in scientific communities serve as an obstacle to embracing preprint in Africa. No, though in checking the relationship between the demographics of the participants and also the awareness of preprint, preprint promotion, and the passive role in preprint in Africa, there is no significant relationship. So we can't really conclude, and there will be a need for more further research that can actually expand the number of participants being looked into. So, in conclusion, this study to some extent reviewed the state of preprint in Africa, the embracing of preprint among researchers, academia, and students, which is still an issue, and everything lies in the aspect of issue with credibility, quality the quality of the data being a major concern, and it's obvious that from this study that preprint will be intensively adopted and utilized by many if the credibility is guaranteed by servers like or indexed by servers like PubMed scopus. In conclusion, to further promote the use of preprint in African community, it is crucial to engage individuals in diverse fields through awareness creation, organize preprint training or workshop at different capacity level, promote funding opportunity, create a friendly but educative platform for preprint discussion, and engaging in feedback is one of the means to actually promote. And also having like a preprint ambassador across different institutions is one of the means to actually promote open access across different institutions. And this is the end of my slide. Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much, Joseph, for this presentation, sharing with us findings from a population of 100 people in Africa on preprints. To buy time, we're going to combine the question session for this and that of pre-review together. Also for the break or the icebreaker we wanted to take, I think for the interest of time, we should do away with that. So for the time being, we would like to call upon Daniela and Grace to take over the floor. Thank you.
Thanks, Rosalind. It'll be me from Prereview. So nice to meet you all today. My name's Vanessa Fairhurst and I'm head of community at Prereview. So today I'm just going to be talking a little bit briefly about what we do at Prereview as a bit of an introduction, because I'm not sure how many people on the call are aware of us. I'll talk a little bit about our work with the Rwanda Preprint Club, running some live reviews and how those work, and I'll show you, if I have time, a little bit of a demo of the Prereview website. So let me just share my screen. Bear with me one moment. Okay. Very sorry. 1 second, just having some technical issue. Okay, you should be able to see my screen now. Sorry about that. So why do we want to improve the peer review process at Prereview? So just to give a little bit of a background, so basically we see peer review as something that is inequitable and unsustainable. So the evaluation of scholarly works by others, it's a flawed process. The pool of peer reviewers is generally quite small. It's often insufficient for the number of review requests, which leads to reviewers being overburdened with the amount of work that they have. And it also leads to the composition of the reviewer pool being quite homogenous. So everyone in the pool is quite similar. Most reviewers are male, mid to late career researchers who are selected by journal editors as experts in their field. They're often from the global north, so predominantly from Western Europe and the US. And this, of course, leads to issues of bias in who and what goes on to get published and then counted as legitimate knowledge. And yet most have also never received any formal training in conducting peer review. So what if we leveraged preprints to build a more equitable and open peer review system? And this is what we thought about at Prereview. So you've probably seen this slide before. This is one from ASAP Bio, and this has kind of the traditional peer review process along the bottom of the slide here, which is carried out by a journal, typically in the dark, outside of the public eye. And as you may well know and may well have experienced yourself, the manuscript submitted by authors to a journal, it goes through peer review via quite an opaque closed process, often for multiple rounds, and it's not for several months until years until it's then accepted for publication. And this, of course, is what slows down scientific research. It stalls careers for researchers, and preprints obviously allow for the early sharing of the research output openly. And importantly, they also open the doors for constructive community feedback at a point in time in which changes can still be made. So early on, when you're still working on the work. And at pre-review, we envision a world in which feedback to scholarly outputs is done openly, rapidly, constructively, and by a diverse community of peers. And we want to extend the pool of peer reviewers to traditionally marginalized groups of researchers whose expertise is measured by constructive contributions and community engagement, and not by seniority and prestige. So at pre-review, we work to extend and diversify the reviewer pool. So anyone with an ORCID identifier, and we've had a little bit of a conversation already about what an ORCID identifier is, can review. And this also challenges who can contribute to improving science. There's no other barriers than that. And this is just so that we can make sure that we credit people correctly for their work doing peer review work. We provide different ways to author a review, and I'll show you briefly how this works. From using a basic template, you can copy and paste your review in that you've written elsewhere, maybe as a group in a collaboration, or you can also use a series of structured questions which have been developed with community input to make the process just that bit easier and accessible. All the reviews get a DOI via Zenodo, and this makes reviewer work more visible, citable, and creditable. We also work to make peer review safer and more constructive. So we provide training to researchers across different career levels with a specific focus on how to recognize and mitigate personal bias in peer review. And when you're publishing a review, reviewers can choose to use a pseudonym. So this is kind of more like a private name. So this addresses any privacy concerns whilst still allowing us to enforce a code of conduct, as we still know in the background who the reviewer is. And last but by no means least, we also work to break down walls. So we run live review events, as we have done with the Rwanda Preprint Club, where researchers connect with others around the globe to collaboratively review preprints online together. We also have a vibrant Slack community with about 400 people in it, and this is growing daily. We connect preprint authors to our community of reviewers via our request a review functionality, and this goes on our website and also in our Slack community. And all of our developments are designed with community input. And we also run an annual champions program to further empower our community members to be able to take forward the work and contextualize it for their own audiences, for their own communities that they work with, and make it useful for the people that they work with. So a little bit more about live reviews specifically. So these are 90-minute calls, which allow for structured and constructive discussions, encouraging diverse methods of participation. So you can come along, you can unmute and say your answers out loud and have a discussion. You can do silent writing into a Google document. You can write in the chat. So typically we do them over a Zoom call, like such as this. And through these events, we strive to support and empower the voices of our fellow researchers, particularly those who are at the early stages of their career, perhaps who are just starting their peer review journey. This is a really nice way to get together and discuss a preprint together and learn how to do peer review collaboratively. And they're usually organized in partnership with journals and community members, as I've said, such as with the Rwanda Preprint Club earlier this year. And in a typical review, there are 2 facilitators from the pre-review team. There's usually sometimes a topic expert to help guide participants through a constructive discussion. We also welcome preprint authors to join the call. So if they want to listen to the feedback on their paper, they can. And we also have people join from all around the world to help build their networks and meet other reviewers. So to start with, a preprint is selected. So this might be one that the journal specifically or the group that we're working with want to review if they already have one in mind, or we select a preprint from those who have requested a review via pre-review. So here is the page from our website, which is where you can find the review requests and they come in. Often we select a paper that's relevant to the group that they're working on if they're quite a specific group of people who engage in one discipline of research, or something that's fairly broad in topic area. So that often helps encourage discussions and sort of breaks down barriers as to what people feel that is accessible for them to review. And then during the review call itself, we bring people together online and we work through a series of prompts as a group, answering questions about the preprint. And these notes from these questions then form the basis of our final review. We usually have this in sort of 3 sections. We'll work through a summary section, first of all, where we talk about the paper on very high level, people's opinions of it, how they felt about it. We then go into some more detailed questions about evidence and examples, any limitations to the work, things about data and figures and tables. And these can be positive things. They don't have to be negative criticisms of the work as well. And then after the call, all of the notes that we have gathered during the discussion are then compiled into a final review. And then we get that ready to then publish on the pre-review platform. And then this is an example of what it looks like when the review is published. So this is a live review we did with the Rwanda Preprint Club earlier this year. You can see the review, the title of the paper at the very top there. You can see the names of the review authors linked with their ORCID identifier. So these are the people who volunteered to help put together the notes from the call into a review. You can see the DOI of the review there, which is done via Zenodo. And you can also see the review license there as well. At the very top of the page, you can see that it's tagged as a live review, and you can also see that this was a review of a requested pre-review. So the authors of this paper came to pre-review and said, we would really like feedback on this work, if anyone is willing to provide it. So we can also see that this was in response to someone requesting for feedback. And another way we can highlight the work of reviewing groups is with our pre-review clubs. So these are dedicated pages for collaborative preprint reviewing groups around any sort of shared affiliation. So this could be a location, a discipline, an interest, or any other common element. We have the ASAP Bio crowd clubs, which helped us to pilot this feature. And we have new clubs that are formed every week, such this is a language club, for example. I think we have about 31 clubs in total, and a number of them are open to join. So you can always take a look and see if there's a group that you would like to join if you have a certain interest. Club leads manage their own membership of the members of their clubs, and they manage the publication of the reviews. And then as you can see here, the reviews then are listed on a page associated with that club of reviewers. Here at the end here, you can see this is a JMIR Publications Club, and we run regular monthly live reviews with them currently. So any live reviews that they do, the outputs are then linked on their page. I've got some further reading resources here that I just wanted to highlight. These were written by two of our champions. And so we've got one about champion preprints in African research settings, and another about how collaborative peer review can transform scientific research. Both really great blog posts, so I recommend taking a look at them if you're interested. And I've got some kind of ways in which you can connect with us at Prereview, and perhaps my colleague Grace can share some links to Slack or a newsletter if that's possible in the chat. And for now, I'm going to stop sharing my presentation so that I can instead share with you just a little bit about how it works in practice on the Prereview platform. Okay, so I will reshare my screen. So you can see here, this is the Prereview website when you come along. And if we just demo how you would review a preprint, you can do this collaboratively as part of a club, or you can just come along and find a preprint that you would like to review, and that's absolutely fine. So if we go to requests, first of all, we can just take one of these as an example, preprint. So I can either go straight into doing a review there, or I can go back to the preprint and read over it if I would like. I can find reading the preprint here. And I can also just take the DOI number here. If you have a paper that you would like to request a review of, you can always do that by clicking this, and you can type in the DOI of your paper, and it will appear on the list of requests. So if I want to review a preprint, I can go here, I can type in the DOI of the preprint that I want to review. I can check that this is the paper I was looking for. In this case, yes, it is. And I can click Start Now. And then this is where I can choose how I would like to do it. So perhaps if I have written the review as part of a preprint club, I could click, I've already written the review, and then I can come here and I can copy and paste it in from our notes that we've prepared before. And that's easy enough. And you can always edit it how it appears. You can add links, you can add headers, bullet points, however you like. You can also use a basic template. So this kind of provides you a little bit of structure, but ultimately you can write in your review and just type it straight into the box, no problem. Or you can also use prompts. So I'll show you how it works with the prompts. And this is very similar to how a live review works. So here you go through a similar, a series of questions about the preprint. So first of all, does the introduction explain the objective of the research? And you can choose from this kind of Likert scale of answers. So maybe I want to say, yes, it does. And I can just add some extra information in as context for my answer. And again, it will take you through a series of, I think there's about 10 questions, and you can just add your responses. So maybe I think that these were somewhat supported, and it's always good to add some extra context as to why you think that's the answer. Anything that's more constructive for the reviewers is obviously very helpful. Oh, that's okay. Sometimes there might be questions that I just don't know the answer to, and that's also fine. And I can click, I don't know. So perhaps there was no data visualizations, for example. And I can go through and answer these questions, providing more information. There's this one about language editing, which is more of a minor issue, but you can always say here, you know, if you think that it's something that needs a little bit more work to make things clear. And then would you recommend it to this preprint to others? So perhaps like, yes, but it needs to be improved. And you can say there what you think is the most important things to improve. And then we get to this page and you can select how you author your review. So I can either use my public name, which is linked to my ORCID identifier, and it will automatically link to that, or I can use a pseudonym. So this is kind of slightly anonymous, unless like you do as I'm doing right now and you share it with other people. If you keep it to yourself, this is like your anonymous persona on pre-review. So if you had any concerns about reviewing this paper, for whatever reason that might be, you can choose to use a pseudonym. We still do have ways in which to account for people abusing the system. We can still see in the background who reviewers are. So for example, you cannot review your own paper, as that would be a conflict of interest. And you can see some more information here about using a pseudonym. And I can also say whether I reviewed it with anyone else. So if I want to add some other people, this is the point in time when I do that. So I say, yes, they've read it, they've approved it. So in the context of a live review, this is what I would do. I save and continue, and then I can add their names and email addresses here. And they will be contacted via pre-review at email to just say, do you want to be listed as an author on this review? In this case, just to show the demo, I'll say no. Competing interests, again, we've got some examples here of what they are. So you need to check that you don't have any competing interests with the paper that you're reviewing. And also say that you are following the code of conduct. So being respectful, using inclusive language, being constructive, this sort of thing. And obviously, if we find a review, it has harmful language in it or anything that's insulting or anything that's just unacceptable, then that review will be taken down. And we also have to confirm that I'm following the code of conduct. And here we go. This is my final review. So I can see here I've got the title. This is the preprint server. It's on medRxiv, this one. This would be my review. It'd obviously be much more detailed if I was writing this properly and not a test. And I can go back and change any comments that I've made if I notice any errors. I can also change my name. So if I want to go back to being my public name, I can do that. And now it's linked to my ORCID identifier. And then at the end, when you're ready to publish your review, can click publish, and it will not say this. It will it will say that your review is published. This is the sandbox. This is the demo version of the website, so I apologize for that. But it will appear with kind of how I showed on the presentation earlier. You'll have your review. You'll have the list of authors with their ORCID IDs. You'll have a DOI and a license, and the review will appear on the preview website and also in Zenodo. So I think that's the end of what I have to say. I hope I didn't go over time too much, and happy to answer any questions anyone has.
Thank you, Vanessa, and I will leave the floor for 1 or 2 questions for you or for Joseph. Thank you. Please, when asking your question, say who your question is being directed to. Are you directing it to Vanessa or you're directing it to Joseph, please? Thank you.
Hi, Vanessa. Thank you so much. Like, that is quite explicit and easy to understand. Thank you. Okay, so my question is this. I noticed that in the first instance, we uploaded, should I say, selected the paper. Is it that the paper has already been published, or this is a manuscript?
It is. So we do reviews of preprints. So yes, you need to have already, the preprint needs to already be posted somewhere online. So not a published paper as in a journal, but a preprint, so on a preprint server. And then you grab the DOI and you can come along to prereview and paste it in and then start writing your review. Or as I demoed on the website there, if you don't have a preprint in mind that you would like to review, you can always explore the ones that have been requested, where the authors have requested for feedback. But yes, it needs to be published somewhere else first, but as a preprint. In future, like later, hopefully towards the end of 2025, we're going to be looking into reviewing other research outputs as well. So not just preprints, we're also exploring with, reviewing data sets, methodologies, and things like that. But at the moment, it's just preprints. I hope that answered the question.
This is amazing. And I got an idea. I don't know if this is included. Like, is this for example, maybe you want to pre-review a paper. Does it give like a feedback on the possible reviews, should I say, review article that could come out from maybe like a research article? It just popped in my mind. I don't know if it makes sense. For example, I uploaded, or I want to pre-review a research article, but I'm thinking what line of review paper or review article can come out, like for me to further explore this topic. Do you have that?
So we only do the publishing of reviews of the preprints. I understand what you're saying. You could write a whole new paper reviewing as like a literature review of the existing one. We don't have a way to publish that. That would be kind of, again, you would publish that maybe as a preprint, and then you could get review on your literature review, a sort of meta review, as it were. So yes, you could look and review something and then explore how you could build upon that research. That's absolutely fine, and that would be something you could add to a review and say that, I really enjoyed this paper so much, I'm actually going to explore this further and see how I could further work on this, and that would be really good feedback for authors, which I'm sure would love to hear it.
Thank you, Vanessa.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Vanessa. I would also like to, I liked the preprint platform here because it's so detailed. The review is so detailed, and the reporting, unlike others which I have seen. I was wondering, can your report from the review, from the pre-review here, be like considered in the journal where I have submitted my manuscript, for example, because maybe it could also give some good feedback on it. And do you think it can be considered? Because if your preprint platform is somehow connected to the journals, can the editors accept such a report and probably consider it when they are reviewing my submission? Thank you. Also, lastly, about this platform, how do you assist on APC? Because some of the challenges we have in Africa is also APC, especially in these good journals. It's sometimes not accessible because they are, first of all, expensive, and sometimes the waivers are not applicable. Thank you.
Thank you for this question. So when it comes to APC charges, because we only work with preprint servers, which are free to post your work on, we don't do reviews of already published journals. So we don't sort of work with tackling those APC charges because we don't charge anything ourselves for people to review on pre-review. So that would be something, unfortunately, to talk about with those specific journals that are charging those and ask if they have any waivers. I know that a lot of journals do provide waivers, so it's always worth asking that. In terms of taking pre-reviews into account when you submit to a journal, this is something we would really encourage you to say when you submit to a journal. It is up to those journal editors whether they take that into account or not. At Prereview, we're trying to change the culture of peer review. However, sometimes this is quite slow and journals have their own different specific peer review processes that they use. We have worked and collaborated with some specific journals to be able to build in this review process into their editorial workflow. So one of the examples in my presentation was JMeer Publications, and they're in Canada. And we are working with them on a series of live reviews because they are taking them into account in their review process. So they were doing a traditional review, and they're also taking into account these collaborative reviews alongside that to make decisions on what to publish. We would really like it if more journals would take that into account, and more journals would take into account community peer review feedback. We think that's really valuable. However, it's kind of up to the individual journals to do that. But something we are hopefully will be working on, and hopefully there'll be a shift in culture in the future. I hope that answered the question, Francis.
Yeah, thank you. My last question is to the one who presented research about the universities in Africa. I was wondering, because I got confused somewhere. First of all, in his conclusions, he says 64% awareness about preprints. I don't know how realistic that is in Africa, because it seems that figure would be it's above average, but realistically maybe it's not. But also, he started out as a cross-sectional survey, but then he ends giving some reports, some qualitative reporting, like what's, I wonder how he was able to get, were they in-depth interviews, were they focus group discussions, where did you get those qualitative statements you were making, and how did you select your samples? Thank you.
Joseph, are you there?
Yeah, sorry, please, can you come again with the question, please?
Please, I will take the questions for the interest of time. I think for the survey, it was just open. It was semi-structured. People were just asked questions about a couple of questions. If you volunteer to respond to the questions, then you will go ahead to complete the survey. So it was kind of open with closed questions as well as open questions. In terms of the percentage, I think he can respond to that. Can you repeat the question about the percentage? Or did you get that, Joseph?
I didn't get it, please. Can I come again, please?
No, in his conclusion, he was like, preprints awareness is the 64% from his findings. So I was wondering whether how you would substantiate on that, because if it's 64%, it's already above average. But what we are seeing, there are very many people who are researchers who are not aware of preprints and how they operate.
So take Regis. I don't know. Sorry, can you come again, please?
I think one of the limitations here is we had a very small samples, very small number of people responding to this survey, and I mean the population in Africa it's too much. We have millions of people in Africa, and only 100 people responded to this survey. So I think that is why when he was ending his survey, he said that when accepting these findings, you have to be very careful. And in terms of 64%, I'm not sure, maybe you can clarify that. Are these among those who were aware of the preprints, or is this among the general population? Can you clarify that, Joseph?
Yeah, it's among the participants, please. It's among the participants.
Which of the participants? Are they the participants who knew about the preprints, or the general participants?
The general participants, please.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes.
All right. I think we can continue with the conversations online and in our various platforms. I'm going to take the last presentation for the day, and thank you for still being here with us to this moment. I'm going to be talking about the Rwanda Preprint Club's journey and successes and challenges so far. Can you see my slides? Can someone see my slides? Please let me know.
No, not yet. Oh, yes, now.
Okay.
Yes, we can see it now.
Okay, thank you. Oh, my slides are not moving. I don't know why. Sorry. Not moving. Just a minute, please. Okay. Okay, great. So today, the Rwanda Preprint Club started earlier this year as a result of a community seat award that we got from Asabao. We had heard from Johnny earlier. In April of 2024, we started the club with 16 members, where we had some initial inclusion as to those who were supposed to be members of the club, with the aim of promoting preprint, as well as posting and reviewing preprint among University of Rwanda students. During the inaugural event that was held in April of this year, we had 20 members. Later on, We started holding bi-weekly meetings and other events via Zoom. Some of the activities that we did during these bi-weekly activities included helping people to develop their manuscripts, posting them, reviewing preprints, encouraging and helping early career researchers with methods for their studies, and any area that people felt there was a need. So far, functioning for about 10 months today, we have been able to conduct a needs assessment, posted 6 preprints on our free archive, work with members within and out of the club. We have also been able to review preprints posted in different repositories. We have had 3 webinars collaborating with institutions such as Prereview and a pre-archive. We have also had 2 live review sessions and 5 non-live review sessions. We have had the opportunity of sharing platforms for opportunities, such as the conference in Cape Town about the Diamond Open Access Summit that I'm currently attending. Our WhatsApp group has about 100 members from different parts of Africa. I'm going to also use this opportunity to announce to us the winners of the gift takeaway for the needs assessment. And the first person I have is Ivy. And she wants to share with us that she has learned about preprints through this club. She had no idea what they were, but she knows that these are early versions of research papers, and she finds them very interesting. She says it feels like a game changer how fast new ideas can spread and get feedback. And she's really excited to see the impact on the research community. Moving forward, we have Ali. Ali says that preprints are simply a powerful tool for accelerating science discovery and fostering collaboration. By sharing research early, we can engage with the community, receive valuable feedback, and make knowledge accessible to all. And he also ends his statement by saying that together, we can advance science faster. We also have Benon Turasinze. He says, I'm just going to read what he has shared with us, word for word, that this is a fantastic opportunity for me to engage with cutting-edge research and contribute to critical scientific discussion. Preprint Club provides a dynamic platform to sharpen analytical skills, stay ahead of emerging trends, and collaborate with fellow researchers in elaborating groundbreaking studies. My participation demonstrates my commitment to fostering a culture of open science and knowledge sharing. Confident that this experience will engage your understanding, inspire new ideas, and enhance your ability to critically assess and contribute to the scientific community. And he wishes us all the best as we embrace preprints and open science. We have other 2 colleagues, two winners here. And I would like to also share with us some of the live or reviews that we have done. We have the first one on the stress, and we did this via the pre-review platform. We also have this one by some of our members. And these are some of the reviews that we have done. So I encourage us to practice reviewing and also posting to encourage open science in any way that we can. And based on the experiences of some of the club members, they would like to, they say some of them have shared with us that their first encounter with a preprint journal occurred during his involvement with the Rwanda Preprint. He says that he actually participated in an open peer review process alongside fellow researchers on a particular manuscript. He says that despite his extensive experience in reviewing manuscripts for years, his recognition in local and international index journal, this experience with this club offered him a fresh perspective on the academic approach to manuscript review. And this is coming from Nuhu Lawan. He further expanded this by saying that the collaboration, the things that he's more impressed about is the collaboration between multiple researchers working simultaneously on a manuscript in real time, the well-structured review framework, how it facilitates a comprehensive evaluation of manuscripts, the precision and coordination demonstrated by the editorial team, the inspiring exchange of information and ideas among colleagues, the mutual respect and orderliness that characterize the entire process, which is these are some of the key elements that we promote as far as open science is concerned. He also mentioned the academic strengths generated by the collective effort of the team by far surpasses individual collaborations as a separate peer reviewer. Goes further by saying that pre-review journals are indeed fast, accurate, transparent, and constructive, significantly enhancing the quality of research ideas. And I will add to this by saying inclusive, enough, and promoting equity. And this is coming from another club member, Patience, who says that the different sessions have helped him shape and sharpen his skills in scientific writing, improve critical thinking and analytical skills regarding scientific papers, help drafted and developed a manuscript for preprint, allow him to contribute to the preprint review session, and supported in networking and professional growth. Some of the barriers that we have faced so far and challenges remain the lack of motivation from some club members, institutions, and the name of the club. I'm sorry, this is a typo error right here. Some people, we had a challenge with the name of the club having Rwanda, as people started thinking that, oh, this is only for Rwanda, and so we are not involved. Moving forward, we decided to change the name of the club from today. And we're announcing the new name as the Africa Review and Curate Club. And we are going to open a database to track all preprints reviewed by the club for impact purposes. The club will support scientific progress, opportunities, addressing barriers, fostering open science, creating awareness, reviewing and advocating for funding as the results from the needs assessments have demonstrated. We are also going to work and collaborate closely with ASABAO, Prereview, AfriArchive, and other new partners, such as a digital hub that is looking forward to promoting research in East Africa. We are going to be sharing the link to their call on the chat box. We're also going to be organizing champions training for regional clubs. We're also going to set a social media page on LinkedIn. And we're also going to be strategic in promoting preprint within academic settings, and also trying to see how we can have review clubs in those institutions. We'll see how to develop strategic and action plans that can help us in our actions, and continue to grow the WhatsApp group and promoting open science through preprint review and other activities within this small platform. And thank you. That is the end of my presentation. Any question? I'll be ready and willing to answer. Yeah, so that was a little bit about what we have done and achieved so far and what I wanted to share with us today. I don't know if we have questions or concerns. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the wonderful presentation. My name is Maurice. I'm joining from Somalia. So I'm team for the Rwanda Printing team. So my question is about the membership for the institution. Is there a certificate membership of the Preprint review for this wonderful platform? So thank you.
Thank you, Ali. I think one of the, we had shared the link to the WhatsApp group, and I'm still going to share that now on the chat box. And certificates of attendance will be provided immediately after this gathering today. Thank you. For those who indicated that they were interested in having one. Are there any other questions? I will leave the floor to Vanessa to help us conclude today's event. Thank you.
Hey, Rosaline, I'm concluding the event?
Yes, please help us conclude the event.
Okay,
You're our guest of
sure.
honor.
Thank you very much. Well, just to say thank you for all of the presentations today. I was just about to write this in the chat, actually. It's been a fascinating event. I'm really excited to see the future of the club and where it goes. Thank you all for attending and all of the questions. I think there's been fantastic questions from the audience. Really hope you all learned a lot. I certainly learned a lot today, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all in future events and hopefully welcome you to our community as well. So thank you very much for attending today, and thank you as well, Rosalind, for inviting me to speak on behalf of Prereview.
Thank you. Thank you, Vanessa. And that marks the end of today's event. Thank you, and have a wonderful festive period, wonderful Christmas season, and happy start of 2025.
Yes,
Goodbye,
yeah.
everyone.
Yeah, happy end of year. See you all next year.
We hope this session inspired you to further explore preprint sharing and contribute to open science in Africa. Join us in our journey towards globally inclusive open science practices and collaborate in building a more transparent and accessible research ecosystem. Visit our websites at accesstoperspectives.org and africacarb.org to learn more about the services we offer and to explore more than 20 sessions in the AfricaCarb Open Science webinar series. Together, let's shape the future of research dissemination across Europe, Africa, and around the world.